Hi everyone. This is where we left off in class talking about unearned interest. So I just wanted to go through the example of using the formula for unearned interest and then talk a little bit about calculating payments for a credit card. This is going to finish up this chapter so that way you're ready to do any of the practice problems associated with monthly payments, whether it's fixed or variable. So, just to recap, the unearned interest is when you pay off your loan early and you're not paying that finance charge on the months that are left because you already paid it all off. So that finance charge you're not paying is called the unearned interest. To calculate the unearned interest, we use this formula. U represents that unearned interest. N, in this case, is the number of monthly payments that are left, not including the payment that you're making right now. P is the monthly payment, so how much is your monthly payment? V is the value that we get from that APR table. So depending on what the APR is and how many remaining payments are left, we find the dollar value. And this one is a lot safer in our calculator, only because the numerator is multiplying and the denominator is adding. So there's not a lot going on like our other formulas where it's fractions and exponents and negatives. This one's pretty straightforward. You still do need to be careful as you're putting it in and remember your order of operations, but there's a lot less complexity to this one as there were in the others. Okay, so here's the first example of using that formula. Remember, we talked about Tino getting his Mustang. We determined from our table that his loan will be 7.5% APR. And instead of making his 30th payment out of the 48, he pays the balance. So he pays it all off on the 30th payment. Let's use the actuarial method to determine how much interest he will save by making that early payment, that payoff. So I always like to start by writing our formula. Our formula is U equals N times P times V. Denominator is 100 plus V. And then we plug in everything that we know. So N is the number of payments left. Since he paid 30 and there were 48, that means we have 18 left. His payment, if we look back at what the example was showing us, he was making payments of $237. So that's what we're going to put as his payment. And his value from our APR table, remember we had calculated that if you look back at your example, the work that we did in class, it was 6.04. In our denominator, we have 100 plus that 6.04. Okay, so you can multiply the numerator, add the denominator, and then do a division at the end if that is the way that you do it. If your calculator can handle multiple things like a scientific calculator, you should be able to put all these in all at once. I personally like to put parentheses around my numerator and denominator separately, just so that way I'm sure that the calculator is keeping those two in the right place of the fraction. And we should be getting something around 242.99. So what does this mean? This means that because he paid it early, he paid off the loan before it was due, he's saving $242.99. That's what they would have charged him in interest on those remaining 18 months. So it really does. I can't stress it enough. It's really, really helpful if you pay off your loans as fast as you can. So what is the total amount due to pay off this loan? So when he makes that payment on the 30th, the 30th payment, and he wants to pay it all off, what is that going to be? What's that amount? So the remaining payments, we said he had 18 left, and his monthly payment each of those 18 months was going to be $237. So let's multiply that. That gives us 4,266. So that's the remaining balance. But we need to take this amount and subtract off. What would we subtract off? We would subtract off that interest that he saved, that unearned interest. So we'll take the interest out of the total, $242.99. And why do I take the unearned interest out? Because his monthly payment already counts principal and interest together. So that $237 every month is already accounting for the interest that he owes. So this $4,200 is the total he owes, including interest. Since he pays it off early, he doesn't owe this $200 in interest, so we can take that out of the equation. So he's left with $4,023.01. So on that 30th payment, it would be $4,023.01 that's left on the loan. But because it's the same time that he would be making a payment, like the 30th month of the loan, he still owes that month. Okay? So $4,000 is what's left, but he's still making that payment for that month. So we still need to count the $237 that he would have paid for that month, whatever it is, if it was June. So June, he owes $237, that's his monthly payment, but he also has $4,000 left total. So altogether, he's gonna pay $4,260.01 to terminate the loan. Okay, in terms of the open-end installment loans, those are credit cards. So those are where you can make a payment as the minimum payment, or you can make more than the minimum payment. You can pay the whole thing off. It's really an open-ended. Here's some examples of credit card terms. They're not for any particular credit card. It's just an example so you can see. They break it down, and we have charges, so you can make purchases, or you can have something called a cash advance. So if you needed the cash, you can pull cash from your credit card. They have different rates, so using your card to make purchases has a different rate than pulling the cash out. You can see that it's a higher rate for pulling cash out. And as an APR, they are pretty high, 18% for making purchases and 25% for pulling out the cash from your credit card. This is actually pretty common. If you take out a loan, usually your rates are a lot less. Credit cards are high because they know that you're going to use it, and they're hoping that you're going to leave the balance on there long enough for them to charge you interest for it. I included a link here. Let's see if it will do it. So this link takes us to a how to read page basically of what a credit card summary would look like. So if you have a credit card, they would send you one of these every month just to update you on your account. You can see that it has the account number, your balance, how many credits you've paid, any purchases you've made, all the things that go into keeping track of your money on your credit card. If you have any rewards, number 5 here shows us any rewards you may have earned. At the top, our big number 2 shows that they'll put your account number and your customer service if you have any questions or need help. 3 and 4 are showing your late payments and minimum payments. So if you are making a late payment, what would happen? They include all of this in there for you, so that way you're aware of how it's going to work. Underneath that, they usually have a cutoff page where you can send a check to pay your credit card, whatever's due. In most cases nowadays, you can just go to their website and pay online. And then they'll usually have a second page showing all of your activities, so that way you can double check that nothing on there was made like a scam charge or your identity was stolen. It's always a good idea to check those, so that way you can see, okay, yes, I did all those purchases. I can see I had a late fee because I paid a few days late that one time, what the interest was charged, things like that. Down underneath you can see specific interest charges being made. So they send these out so you as the buyer are completely aware of what's happening in your account, and they try to be pretty transparent about those things. You can always opt to get paperless now, so they can send you this in your email, or you can log into their website and see all of them as a PDF. But if you prefer paper, they can send it to you in the mail. So, as we move into the credit card section, we'll start with calculating the monthly minimum payment. Ms. Johnson's credit card company determines her minimum monthly payment by adding any new interest to 1.2% of the outstanding principal. The credit card company charges an interest rate of 0.05271% per day. Now that sounds like a really low percentage, but this is per day, so keep that in mind. On April 15th, Ms. Johnson used her credit card to purchase a new recliner and sofa for $3,800, and she made no other purchases in April. Assuming Ms. Johnson owed no interest, determine her minimum payment due on May 1st, her billing date. So, since there's no new interest due, her minimum monthly payment due on May 1st is going to be determined by taking 1.2%, that's what they tell us, of the outstanding principal. So turning these words into an equation like we did before, 1.2% is 0.012 of always means multiply, and our outstanding balance, she owes $3,800. So multiplying that, you should get 45.60. Okay. So what I'm going to do is just round it up to $46 and say her minimum monthly payment is $46. So on May 1st, her bill is going to come and it's going to say, okay, the minimum due is $46. Of course, she can pay more than that. She can pay all the way up to the whole amount, $3,800, but at minimum, $46. Now, on May 1st, instead of making the minimum payment, Miss Johnson decides to pay $950. And assuming she didn't make any new charges, didn't take in cash advance, let's determine her minimum payment due on June 1st. So now we're going to look at what the next month after she makes this payment. Okay, so her minimum monthly payment due June 1st is going to be adding the new interest plus her 1.2%, right? Adding any new interest of the outstanding principal. Let me continue our, okay, so that's going to be really critical to our calculations. So to calculate that new interest, we are going to go all the way back to I equals PRT. Okay. So the principal that she owes, she had $3,800, but she paid off $950. So what's left? Let's find out. Okay, we subtract off the $950, so she has $2,850 left. That's still what she owes. So that's going to be our principal, $2,850. The rate, where did it go? Here it is, per day. Okay. 0. What do we got? We'll move this twice. So we'll have 0.0003. Yeah. 5271. Sometimes when I count all the zeros, I get kind of cross-eyed. So be very careful on how many zeros you got there. Okay, and our time, since this is a daily rate per day, right? It's our daily rate, so our time has to match our rate in this case. I know I have hammered it into you saying time is always in years, but in this particular example, they gave us the rate in days, so our time has to be in days. If we look at the calendar and look at May, it has 31 days. So our time is 31 days because the due date of the next payment isn't until June 1st when May is over. So if we multiply all of these, we will find out what her new interest rate will be, or the interest that she is going to be charged for the month of May. And multiplying those out gives us something like $46.57. Okay. Now we can move forward and find, okay, I need to find 1.2%. Okay, we're going to go back here. I underlined it, so we have to use it, right? 1.2% of our outstanding principal. That tells us, okay, I'm going to, let me switch colors so we know we're moving on to our next step. I'm going to take 0.012, just like we did before, and multiply it by the outstanding balance. We found out that she still owes $2,850 after she made that payment. Okay, multiplying those tell us we have 34.20. Okay. So now we have the interest. Interest is right here. We have 1.2% of our principal right here. So we add these two things together. 34.20, our principal, plus $46.57, the interest, and this gives us $80.77. Okay, so this is showing us that her new monthly minimum payment is going to be $80.77, so I'm going to say $81 on June 1st. Okay, June 1st comes and she's going to need to pay at minimum $81. Okay, so what we did here is we found out, okay, she made a payment, we take that off of her balance, we find out her new balance, use her daily interest to find out what the interest is that she will owe, follow what it told us the credit card company says, add the interest to 1.2% of the principal. So we found 1.2% of the principal, added it to the interest, and found the new monthly payment. Okay, it was a lot of steps. Go through it again if you need to, but we are just following what the credit card has laid out. The company has laid out these as its terms, really, of how it's going to charge her and how much they expect her to pay every month. Okay, so what we've done is something called the previous balance method, where the borrower, in this case it was Miss Johnson, is charged interest or finance charge on her previous balance from the previous period. So the interest due in June, right, that minimum payment due on June 1st was determined by how much she owed in May. So it's based on her previous balance. Okay, in October, Peter charged all the supplies for his Halloween party to his Visa card, and on November 5th, the billing day, Peter had a balance of $275. From November 5th through December 4th, he did some shopping and charged items totaling $320, and he also made a payment of $145. Let's determine the finance charge due on December 5th, Peter's next billing date, using the previous balance method. And we'll assume that the interest rate is 1.3% per month. Okay, so he's using his credit card, he's making some payments, using it as a normal person does, okay? Buying things, paying some, buying things, paying some. Let's find out the finance charge. Remember, in our class, we are thinking of the finance charge as the interest. So anything on top of the original cost is going to be considered our finance charge. Our finance charge in this case is based on the $275. Peter had a balance of $275, okay? And to determine our finance charge on December 5th, right? Determine the finance charge on December 5th. We use our simple interest formula for the time of 1 month, because we're going from November 5 to December 5, 1 month. I equals PRT, our principal being the $275. Our rate is, where did it go? 1.3 per month. So move our decimal twice. 1, 2. We have 0.013. And we are moving forward in 1 month. So because our interest rate is per month, okay, the rate is counting it in months, so our time must be in months. This time we're matching the time to the rate. It is 1 month. So we multiply this out. The interest is about $3.58. So his finance charge due in December is $3.58. Okay? Okay, so let's say the new balance. What is his new balance going to be after all of this shopping and there was a payment made? What is the new balance now? So to determine our balance on December 5th, we need to add up all the costs of the new purchases, calculate our interest, and subtract off the payment, okay? So we had 275. We'll start there. Then what happened? He did some shopping, charged $320. So new charge of $320. Then we got charged some interest. What was our interest? $3.58 for that month. And then one good thing, made a payment. So we'll subtract off $145 for that payment. After all of these adding and subtracting, we should get $453.58. So the balance due on December 5, new bill comes in and it says, okay, after all of your payments and your charges and the interest, you now owe $453.58. That's the new account balance. And it'll just continue that way until Peter decides to pay his credit card off. Okay, let's talk about something called the average daily balance method. This one is a little bit more complex because, as you can hear with the title, we're doing the daily balance. Okay, with this method, the balance is determined each day of the billing period for which there is a transaction. Many institutions use the average daily balance method to calculate their finance charge because they believe, quote, it is fairer to the customer. In some cases, this may lead you to paying a higher charge. So, like I said before, make sure if you do use a credit card, you are always paying it off. Okay, let's look at an example of the average daily balance method. The balance on Min's credit card account on July 1, the billing date, was $375.80. The following transactions occurred in July. So on July 5th, she made a payment. Good, $150. On July 10th, went to the toy store. On July 18th, did a charge for the garage, must have needed something fixed. And July 28th, went to go eat. So let's find out the average daily balance. The first thing I want you to do is think, okay, this is talking about an average of something. So how do we always find the average of something? We add up all the things and divide by how many, right? That's exactly how we find the average daily balance on these problems too. So, first, we need to determine the balance for each transaction date. Okay, we have them all laid out. The one I'm going to start with, I'm going to add July 1 up here. That's when we started. It says the balance on July 1 was $375. So I'm going to put $375 right here. That's what we're starting with. Not $375.80. I almost gave her a credit she didn't even earn. Okay, then after that, the very first thing that happens in July is she made a payment. So we're going to take our $375.80 and subtract that $150, okay? $375.80 minus $150, that gives us $225.80. So basically we're finding out, okay, after that, how much is in your account? Okay, after that, how much is in your account? And we're kind of doing like an account balance for Min right now. On July 10th, she took that $225, she still owes $225.80, but she made a new purchase. So we're gonna add that $74. Now she owes $300. Then she made another purchase. So she owed $300, added another $123 to her charge. So that gives us $423.65. And then she made another purchase. So $423.65 plus $42 at the restaurant. Now she owes $466.15. Okay? She's racking up the charges. Now we have values at each of these important dates. So next, we find out how many days did each of these amounts last. Okay? So the 375, let me change colors here, lasted from July 1st up to July 4th, right? On the 5th, it changed. So this one lasted 4 days. From July 5th to July 9th, right? The next change was on the 10th. So from the 5th to the 9th, this one lasted 5 days. Then from the 10th to the 17th, this one lasted 8 days. From the 18th to the 28th, this one lasted 10 days. And then to finish off the month, from July 28th to the 31st is 4 days. So now we have not only the amount that was owed on her card, but we have the amount of days, the number of days that that amount was owed on her card, right? However many days it lasted. And what we do is we multiply those. So for 4 days, it was $375. What is that amount? 4 times $375 gives us $1,503.20. We multiply $225.80 times 5. We get $1129. 8 times 315. We get $2401.20. And then 10 times 423, so we get $4236.50. And last one, 466 times 4, we get $1864.60. And we add them all up because remember, we're finding the average. So what we did here is we're adding 375 plus 375 plus 375 plus 375, 4 of them, plus 225 plus 225, 5 of them, you know? So instead of adding each of these individually, I multiplied them all by how many times there were. Then we add these all up. This is our numerator in an average. 11,134.50. So that's our numerator. And we divide by how many days? In this case, July has 31 days, so we divide it by 31. So we get the average daily balance of $359.18. Now we can use this average daily balance to determine the finance charge. Okay, so we can look at what would be the finance charge to be paid on August 1st, the next date, assuming her interest rate is 1.3 per month. Well, let's use our interest formula. The principal, that average daily balance, $359.18. Our rate, it tells us 1.3 per month, 0.13, and for 1 month. We multiply, we get $4.67. So the finance charge for that month is going to be $4.67. Okay, since we have our finance charge, we can find out how much the new balance is going to be when that bill comes in August. So we already calculated she ended with $466.15. She ended the month $466.15, but she got charged interest $4.67. Total, she's going to owe $470.82. Okay, and that's why they have so many credit cards that are so appealing, because it's really easy for them to charge you interest on these purchases and make money off of you spending your money. Okay, let's look at a cash advance real quick. This is the last one. Thomasina wishes to purchase an antique bookcase for $1,500. Since the antique dealer accepts cash only, Thomasina uses her credit card to obtain a cash advance of $1,500. She borrowed the money on July 10th and repaid it on July 31st. If Thomasina is charged an interest rate of 0.06164% per day, how much did Thomasina have to repay the credit card company on that due date on July 31st? So the amount that Thomasina pays is the original principal plus interest. And the interest is calculated for the exact number of days. So per day, and then we just find out how many days was it. So first I'm going to calculate the interest that she owes. So our principal, $1,500. Our rate, we move our decimal twice, 1, 2. Okay, count your zeros carefully again. 0, 0, 0. Yeah, 3. 6, 1, 6, 4. And the number of days. So in this case, we went from July 10 to July 31. That's a total of 21 days. Multiplying this out gives us approximately 1942. So that's the interest that accrued over those 21 days. So when she makes her payment, she has to pay the $1,500 that she borrowed plus the $19 in interest, giving us a total payment $1,519.42 on that payment date. Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry. There's one more. It's important, or I wouldn't have it. Okay, comparing loan sources. Franz purchased carpeting costing $2,400 with his credit card. When the bill comes due on February 1st, Franz realizes that he can pay $350 per month until the debt is paid off. His credit card charges a 1.5% interest rate per month. Assuming Franz makes no other purchases with this card, how many payments are necessary to retire this debt? So how many payments is he going to make before he's all done with this, getting the carpeting all paid off? Well, he wants to make his first monthly payment of $350. That payment would be on February 1st, it tells us. So if we find out the new amount that's owed, right, we would start with, he owes $2,400, he wants to pay $350. What's left? $2,050. So his next bill is going to have a balance of $2,050 plus whatever the interest is for that month. And he'll just continue making payments until he's paid it all off. So what that would look like, let's see if I can show you what this would break down. So we have February 1st. We just showed $2,400 minus that payment. So that gives us $2,050. Okay. Next month, March 1st. We have that balance, $2,050. We have to account that he gained interest, right? The interest is 0.015 times the balance. By adding those together, we have $2,080.75. He makes another payment, and so our new balance, $1,730.75. And we just continue doing this. April 1, we have a balance of $1,730.75 plus the interest for that month. When we add in the interest, we have $1,756.71. He makes a payment. So the balance is now $1,406.71. Okay. May, $1,406.71. We add interest. We get $1,427.81. He makes a payment. Then we are down to $1,077.81. Okay, should I do them all? We're getting there. July. August. Ooh. 61.22. Okay. September's the month. So it looks like in September it will be low enough where he doesn't have to pay $350. He'll just pay $62 to pay that off. So how many payments will he need to make? 8 payments. 7 of them for $350, 1 of them for $62.14. Now, what is the total interest that Franz is going to pay? Franz. To calculate our total interest, we just add up all the payments and subtract the cost, right? Because remember, the interest is the additional payments that he makes on top of the original cost, what we call our finance charge. So the total of all his payments, we said 7 of them were $350, and 1 of them was $62.14. So total, he's paid $2,512.14. Okay, let's find out how much interest because the carpeting cost $2,400. So how much of this was interest? After we subtract off that, we get $112.14. So he paid $112 in interest alone. Okay, how much money could Franz have saved by obtaining a fixed installment loan of $2,400 with an annual percentage rate, APR, of 6% with 6 equal monthly payments? Well, let's find out what this would give us in terms of a finance charge first. So we'll use our table. Did I bring it? I didn't bring it. We'll use our table and see, okay, we have an APR of 6% and we have a time of 6 monthly payments. So let me see if I have the chart. Don't get dizzy. Here we go. We have 6 payments and the APR was 6%. So that tells us the finance charge is going to be $1.76. Okay, look away. Don't get dizzy. All right, Franz. So we're calculating our finance charge first. We said it was $1.76. And since it cost $2,400, we divide that by 100 to see, because it's $1.76 for every 100, right? So it's $1.76 for 24 hundredths. That gives us a finance charge of $42.24. Okay, well, on the other option, his finance charge was going to be $112. So how much does he save? Well, $112.14, with the difference from the $42 is a savings of $69.90. So if he had used a fixed installment loan instead of that credit card, he would have saved almost $70. Okay, and just like previously talked about, the homework is mostly doing your research. There are MyLabs still posted in its usual spot. And in addition to these things, I want you to try out Powtoon and create a short video for me. It can be on anything. I just want you to try it out because you might want to do your presentation in Powtoon. Also, keep studying in the study plan. If you cannot find the study plan, please let me know immediately. There's a few people that I had to help find it. It is the best way to study for a math test. I'm telling you, the best way to study for a math test is by doing practice problems, and that's where you're going to find them.